Hi, everybody. I'm Pratibha Agarwal. I'm an immigration attorney. I am based right outside of Washington, D.C. in Arlington, Virginia, but our clients are located all throughout the United States and internationally as well. And this is because immigration is considered a federal practice. So that means that we can represent clients no matter where they're located. They can be anywhere in the U.S., they can be international. And for us, we are fully set up to handle clients remotely if they don't want to come into the office. We were set up to do this before the coronavirus, and it actually helped us a lot to keep our practice moving along, even with the virus. So, so we can help clients no matter where you're located. And in fact, we do. We have clients all throughout the U.S. So call us for a consultation if you are interested. If you have an immigration question, give us a call. We are at 703-348-1663. Again, my name is Pratibha Agarwal. I'm an immigration attorney. If you're just joining us, we are located right outside of Washington, D.C., and we handle all types of immigration cases, including business immigration. I know H-1B lottery just was held, so if you were lucky enough to get picked, we handle H-1Bs, green cards for family, for humanitarian cases. We also help people with employment-based petitions as well. So call us if we can help you. And today is really an opportunity for you to just answer questions. I usually do this more often. I haven't been on in a few days of spending time with my family, but I am back. I'm ready to answer your questions. I missed you guys, so feel free to go ahead and pop your question in here. We're streaming on both Facebook and on TikTok, so I'll be on for a little bit on both platforms, and I'd be happy to answer anything that you have. And I have a couple questions that come up in our practice as well that I can start off with that may be helpful to people that are watching. If you have not yet liked the firm Facebook page, which is Agarwal Immigration, or follow us on TikTok, which is at Agarwal Immigration, go ahead and follow us, and you'll be notified every time we go live. You can set your notifications to update you every time we go live, so you can go ahead and ask your questions. Hi, Shaliza. Hi, that girl. Hi, Harish. Hi, Joe. Hi, Sandeep. That girl says, how many tries do you get for the American citizenship test? That's a really good question. So most people, just to kind of give you the background on how to become a U.S. citizen, right? So most people have to be a green card holder for 5 years before they are eligible to apply for citizenship. And some people, if you're married to a U.S. citizen, and there's certain other things as well, but generally, if you're married to a U.S. citizen, you can be a green card holder for only 3 years before you're eligible to apply for citizenship. So once you apply for citizenship, there are a whole number of requirements, and we can certainly go through that. But when you finally get to that interview phase, you get tested on American history, American civics questions. You get tested on your ability to speak and understand English, and also your written English. So I actually talked to somebody today that had failed the citizenship test 4 different times. So 4 times, and they were wondering what they could do. So in terms of the citizenship test, I think that girl, BB, said, how many tries do you get? So you actually get 2 tries on the civics exam. So once you apply for citizenship and you have your interview, you are quizzed. You are quizzed on 100 possible questions. So you can study for that beforehand. All of that is readily available on the USCIS website. It's even available in different languages. So you can study for the civics exam, and you will get 10 questions, of which you have to get 6 correct. Okay, so if you get less than 6 correct, you have 1 more try usually. But for people that don't think they're going to pass the citizenship exam, or that have a medical issue, some people, we have clients come to us, they're like, I I can't memorize this. I'm having a hard time. We've had several people come to us like that, especially if they're older. And we were able to work with a doctor. I mean, we send them to a doctor to do an evaluation to see if they have some kind of cognitive disability that prevents them from being able to learn this information, right? So obviously, if you can pass the test and you don't have any issues, I would not suggest, suggest taking this route. However, for people that do have a cognitive issue, let's say you're older, let's say you might have dementia, or maybe your parents are studying for the citizenship exam and they might have some kind of cognitive disability that maybe comes with age. I'm being completely hypothetical here, right? But they may be able to bypass the civics exam by getting an evaluation and a medical waiver from a doctor that lets them pretty much, that would have to meet all the other requirements for citizenship, but they might be considered exempt from having to take the citizenship civics exam. So that's a really great option for people, that do have a disability. They can get a medical waiver. I'm going to take a sip of water here. I've been talking all day, you guys, talking all day. So yes, so the answer to your question is two times usually. And then you can always reapply if you get denied. All right, let's see. We have a bunch of questions here. Hi, Sandeep says, hi Sandeep, how are you? Hi Jamaican girl, hi Jacqueline, hi Mithil, hi Aisha, let's see, hi Omar. Seller says, hi Miss, I applied for my asylum. So right now, my 150 days, am I eligible to apply for a work permit? You can be eligible to apply for a work permit if you have your asylum pending for a certain amount of time. So yeah, you certainly can apply for a work permit if you've had your asylum pending for a certain amount of time. So call us if we can help you. We're at 703-348-1663. Hi, Aisha. I haven't talked to you in a while. I hope you're doing well. Hi, Omar. Seller says, hi, Miss. I just read that. I apologize. Someone says, can you sue? Can I sue who? Sue the USCIS? You can always sue USCIS. So I bring this up kind of often for people that have cases pending for a very long time. So the question then becomes, what can I do to move my case along faster? So generally speaking, you guys, it does take a long time for for these applications to get adjudicated. It takes a pretty long time for them to get adjudicated, meaning for a decision to be reached, right? But, if you think that your case has been pending for an extraordinary amount of time, more than you want to wait or more than you think the average processing time is, you do have the option of suing the government. So this is all based on the government has a duty to make decisions in a timely and efficient way. So they have to, that's required by law, they have to be efficient with their time and make a decision in a reasonable amount of time. So you do have the decision to sue the government, essentially force them into making a decision on your case. But when I say that, it doesn't mean that you're going to get approved. You could get denied. All you're doing is asking for a decision. So if you'd like, we can talk to you about your case. We can assess the strength of your case. Like, for example, let's say you have a marriage-based green card and you have strong evidence. You've traveled with your spouse. You have joint accounts with your spouse. You own a home perhaps with your spouse. Maybe you even have children together, right? So this is a pretty strong case that this marriage is not just for immigration purposes, that it's a real marriage. In fact, you've built your life together. But for some reason, it's stuck up in administrative processing. You don't even know why, and it's been there for a really long time. You do have the option, I would say maybe it is a good idea for you to sue the government, force them to make a decision on your case. Obviously, there may be other ways to move your case along a little bit faster, and this is certainly an option. And if you want to talk about that, we do help clients do that as well. Give us a call if we can help you. We are at 703-348-1663. Hi, that girl says, can you? Oh, yep. Can you sue a store if you get injured? So I really only handle immigration. So yes, you can sue a store usually if you get injured, but this is outside my area of law. You might get into personal injury there, but you may be, if something happened, if you're a victim of a crime, if you were present in that store and something happened to you, you might be eligible for what's called a U visa, as a victim of a crime. So if something terrible happened and you witnessed it and you're willing to cooperate with the police in an investigation, you might qualify for what's called a U visa. We handle some of those as well. So if we can help you, call us. We're at 703-348-1663. That girl, BB, hi. Let's see. Hi, Miriam. Hi, Zara. Zara says, I applied for citizenship, but I haven't heard anything about my case. Some of these are taking a really long time. Hi, Yethin. How are you doing? Yethin says, how are you? How are you? He's on Facebook. He's my biggest fan here, Mr. Yethin. Nice to see you. Nice to see you here. It's been quite a while. I'm doing well. I hope you are doing well as well. If you have a question, type it in, Yethin. Let's see. Sorry, I'm getting a little disorganized here. Jess says hello. Hi, Yusu. Hi, Satyam. Hi, Devi. Let's see. Okay. Artie says hello. Dalvinder says hello. I don't know anything about the Potomac Service Center today, Yethin. Nothing new, I should say, nothing new. Yethin is asking about the Potomac Service Center. All of, these processing times for if you check them, you can always check your processing times online, and they change often. They change pretty often. So I would say check regularly. Some of them show really long processing times. Again, as I just mentioned, you can always sue the government to make a decision on your case, to be faster on your case. Jamaican girl says, how long does it take a green card holder to file for his wife if he lives in New Jersey and I'm in Jamaica? I'm guessing JAM. It's if you're in Jamaica and your spouse is a green card holder and they're living in the U.S., he can sponsor you. It can take a couple of years, maybe even 2 to 3 years. I'm going to say right now, at least that's what we're seeing with our clients. It's taking about 2 to 3 years. It could be faster. Things could move along more quickly in the Biden administration, but in past few months, it's been taking us at least a couple of years. It's a long process to get a green card when you're abroad, when you're married. But the thing is, so for some green cards, for example, let's say a U.S. citizen is sponsoring their brother or sister who lives abroad, right? That's a very long time frame. So that's many, many years. I think it's more than 10 years right now. It could be longer. I'm not sure, but it really is many, many years. When a green card holder is sponsoring their spouse from abroad, that actually is much shorter. It's only a couple of years. I know it still probably feels like a very long time, especially when you can't necessarily live with your spouse or if you're in different countries. But it is much faster than some visa categories. So if you are a U.S. citizen with like a married child, that's going to take longer to sponsor them from abroad. But it does still take a couple of years, unfortunately. But the good news is that it's more just the processing time of that visa, not necessarily whether a visa is available, if that makes sense for you. So for some of them, a visa is not available for a very long time. So that means that you have to wait until a visa becomes available. Then you can submit your application, and then it gets processed. If you're married to a green card holder and you're abroad, there's no visa availability time. The length of time is really just the processing time that takes a very, very long time. And when someone is being sponsored abroad, so if you're sponsoring, for example, your spouse from abroad, there's a part that happens here in the U.S. So that can take up to a year, maybe even longer. Today, we realized that some service centers were taking a very long time, almost 2 years, for that process here in the U.S., where you're showing that the person sponsoring is a green card holder or is a U.S. citizen. And then, you have to gather a whole bunch of documents, put them up into the portal for the National Visa Center. And then eventually that gets transferred over to the embassy that schedules your interview. So this whole process is very, very long. So that's why it can take a long time. If both people are already in the U.S., it's a little bit faster, and you also get work permit and travel authorization. That's if you're already in the US. So you may not have an option, right? So you may not have an option if one person is abroad and the other person is here. You may have to consular process that green card. But otherwise, if they're both in the US, it would be a little bit faster application. Hi, Mariama. Zara says, hi, I have applied for citizenship, but I haven't heard anything about my case. So always check your case status online, see how long the processing times are taking. It can take, more than a year sometimes. So just, the first thing is you get your receipt notices, and you get fingerprinted, and then you have an interview. And in the middle, if they need additional documents, they'll ask you for that. But sometimes, often with citizenship, they don't require that much. So most people we don't really get that many RFEs on citizenship, of course. Jamaican girl says, we have children together. Still, there's no visa wait time. Remember, if you're applying for a green card holder, there's no real visa wait time. It's really just the processing time. And no matter if you have children together or not, having children together is helpful because you show that this marriage is real. It's not just for immigration purposes. So it's definitely very helpful to have that information, to have the birth certificates for your children when you go and apply for your green card at the embassy. However, it's really the processing times that are taking a really long time, not whether or not, it's not about the merit of your case, meaning it's not about how strong your case is. It's just in general, the time to process this visa is very, very long. Kenny says, what is the worst case scenario in VAWA? What do you mean the worst case scenario? So what could happen? I guess you could get denied. You could get denied in your application, but obviously what we would do with our VAWA cases, we put together the strongest case possible. We gather as much evidence as possible, and we submit that. So if you had a weak case, we would likely most likely tell you and identify it before it gets filed. So if you are interested in applying for VAWA, so for those of you that are interested, VAWA it can be many different types of scenarios, but the common one that we do is for spouses of U.S. citizens or green card holders that are victims of abuse. So they could be suffering emotional and psychological abuse, verbal abuse, and sometimes there's physical abuse as well. But remember, physical abuse is not always required. We're looking at things like, is your spouse incredibly controlling? Are they incredibly controlling of your finances? And this is just an example. It could be different for different couples, different cases. Does your spouse call you names, humiliate you, put you down, make you feel bad? A lot of different things, right? So we're looking more at control and hurt. And some people don't realize that they might qualify until we have a chance to really talk to them and get in depth into the relationship between them and their spouse. So if you think you might qualify, if you or someone is married to a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, and that your spouse is not going to file for your green card application for you, and there are struggles in your relationship, you may qualify. You may be eligible to apply on your own without your spouse. So call us if you think that this might be you. We can certainly talk to you and let you know if you're eligible to do this on your own. Again, physical abuse is not required. So if you or someone is a victim of emotional or perhaps psychological abuse, you may still qualify to apply for your green card on your own. So call us. We're at 703-348-1663. Someone's called Christmas. Miriam says, I have a question. If you already filed for your husband as a green card holder and your status changes when you're filing, so you should just notify NBC or USCIS, depending on where you filed. You can just notify them and you'll kind of get bumped up, meaning you might be a little bit faster for you. Strong Mind says, my wife is having her citizenship interview on the 12th of this month, and I want to leave the country. you can leave the country if your wife is having their citizenship interview. It has nothing to do with you. So even if your wife got her citizenship through marriage, it doesn't mean that you have to be involved in the citizenship portion. That's just your wife. Even if it's a marriage-based green card, you don't have to be present. Hi, Hidayat. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Ashmini says, on till I can get anything. I'm not sure what that means. Says, my parents passed away when I moved back home. Is that possible that she can help me while I'm in Africa? If you're married, if your wife is, if you and your wife are married, she can certainly sponsor your green card in Africa. But depending on how much unlawful presence you have, you may be subject to a re-entry bar. So that's something you want to think of. That means you wouldn't be able to enter for a certain number of years if you were here unauthorized for some period of time. So if you want to analyze the risks, analyze the risks and see what the best option for you is, to see if it is a good idea for you to leave to go see your parents. I'm so sorry to hear that your parents passed away, and I'm sure it's really hard to think that you might not be able to go back to be there for that. But you should know the consequences, right? You should know the immigration consequences of leaving if in fact you might have had some unlawful presence. Again, if you have some immigration questions, if you want to give us a call, we are at 703-348-1663. Kenny says, I meant to say, if we have witnessed in VAWA, does it help? If you have a witness, meaning you have witness to that has seen the abuse, you could use their declaration as well. I don't know if I'm understanding you properly, but if there are other people that have witnessed your spouse abusing you, that could possibly help strengthen your case as well. Jamaican girl says, can I visit my husband on my tourist visa? You could, technically you could, but anytime you come into the US on a tourist visa, you have to show that you intend to go back to your home country. So that might be hard to do if you have your husband here in the US, but let's say you have kids back home in Jamaica. I'm assuming Jamaican girl here is in Jamaica. If you have kids back home, if you own property, if you have a job, if you have all your family and you're just here for a visit and you can show that, you may be able to enter. But if you have your husband here, it's going to be kind of hard to show that you're just here for a visit and not intending to stay. Satish says, hi, good night. If you married your spouse, can she get a temporary green card to visit me in America? So there's no temporary green card, Satish. It's always a permanent green card, right? So a green card is a document of permanent residence. So a temporary visa might be something like a tourist visa that I just mentioned to Jamaican girl just now. Something that that your wife would have to show that she's going to return back to her home country. It's hard to come on a tourist visa if you're married, because most likely you want to spend the time with your spouse. Not always the case, right? But most likely you want to spend some time with your spouse and live with them permanently for most people. So it's hard to show that, I'm coming to visit my husband, but then I'm going back after a bit. So unless you can show strong ties and strong evidence of your intent to leave the U.S., it's going to be hard to come in on a tourist visa to visit your husband. All right. Ashmini says, I meant that my husband put in for me and the lawyer said he has to become a citizen. So if you are out of status, you may not be able to qualify. But if you're, let's say, a victim of abuse, then you may be able to qualify even if your husband is a green card holder and you're out of status here. But normally you have to be in status to be sponsored by a green card holder for marriage. But some people are able to qualify because their relationship is such that there's emotional, psychological, sometimes physical abuse. They have challenges in their relationship that does help them qualify for a green card. And that's, of course, on their own without their spouse. Satish is asking, how long does it take to sponsor for a spouse. So if you're in the U.S., it's taking our case about a year and a half. It's taking our case about a year and a half, and then if they're abroad, right? If they're abroad, it can take longer. It can take 2 to 3 years. That's unfortunately, it's a really long time. That's how long we're seeing right now with our cases. So yeah, I'm gonna say a couple of years on average it will take. Okay, Yethan says, if I move to a different state, does my file get transferred to a different service center? Yes, it does. So you would update your address. So you guys, if you have immigration applications pending, make sure to update your address. You have to update it within 10 days. So make sure you do that. You can do that online in most cases, or you can write in. So make sure to keep your address always updated. And wherever you, it might not get transferred to a different service center. That's what Yethan is asking, but it's going to get transferred to a different field office if it's not within the same area that you're moving. All right. I think I answered all your questions, and it's so nice to see everybody. I will be back on. And, feel free to call our office with any immigration questions that you have. If you'd like to set up a consultation, we do them by phone or by Zoom. And I would love to chat with you about your case. And it will be kind of like this, except it'll just be one-on-one. And we'll be able to go through your issues, outline your options, go through pricing and all the fees that are involved as well. Sorry, one last question here before I log off. If your spouse is a U.S. citizen, does it take the same 2 to 3 years? Yes. If a visa is currently available, that's kind of what we're seeing. All right. Okay, I hope everyone has a wonderful evening, and I will see you soon. All right, take good care. Bye.